Angill, and I'm here with Emmanuel Gona and Abdi Barsid Ali Mohammed, who is a psychotherapist, emotional intelligence, and behavioral analyst. We are talking about fear and trauma, and we are just unpacking a lot of things. If you have a question for us, our call line is 0732 917 or you can just hit me up on 0700 as well. We left it. You talked about everybody should go for therapy, but before we go for therapy, what's the best way to restructure? Because you said yes, you might have been raised in a toxic environment, in an environment that hurt you and shaped you as an adult, but you can restructure. How does one do that?
Um, there's no one size fits all. But I think the first step should be recognizing what happened to the person, going back and think about the history, and then know that you are not what happened to you, right? And then start having some compassion, because if the caregivers somehow failed you and so the trauma took place, now you're no longer that little boy or that little girl, right?
Yes.
So now that you're more resourceful and probably educated, now it's your obligation to raise that child, reparent
Yeah.
that inner child as it is.
Yes.
And I think the first step should always be acknowledging. Okay, A, B, C, D, F happened, but I'm here now. For some reason, you are here, still thriving.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to be proud of, right?
Yeah.
But whatever that is left, that is still shaping these decisions that you make and how you experience this reality. And the way you to go about is acknowledging, first of all. It doesn't mean you will settle for this, right? Acceptance.
Yes.
Once you have made peace with that, you're accessing different part of the brain, which is the creativity part of the brain.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the solution may present itself. So compassion, acceptance, and compassion, I think, are the key and approaches here.
Okay.
And compassion doesn't mean something external. Compassion means saying, okay, that happened to me, and touching your heart and just acknowledging and say, I'm okay. Yeah, it's you rewriting your history.
But then we also have perception and the same, right?
Yes.
Because I'm just looking at it. Probably some people would be looking at such instances and they're like, or rather, it's all about how you look at them. I want to understand well in that part, how you look at everything else. Because most of the time, I might have faced a lot of challenges, but then if I decide to get deep into it, probably it might affect me. If not,
Yeah, you said something important there. Perception. So perception is how we understand this reality, and it's unique, and it's shaped by all. When you receive information, whether it's visual or auditory, or so that information is decoded in the brain. Perception lobe goes through your hippocampus, your archive, especially the archive of the negatives. So and perception is being shaped in real time because of how you and what information that is stored there. So you're experiencing this reality based on how you are within, right?
yeah,
So if, let's say, then and someone who has extreme or trauma experience, obviously their perception is shaped by that trauma. We were talking about the relationships,
Yeah.
and so on. So and other challenge here is our understanding of mental health and the stigma, right?
yeah,
because in our society, unfortunately, there's a belief of, if you have depression or anxiety or other mental health issues, then somehow your dignity or your worth is decreased. But nobody asks, if you have a fever and
Yeah.
if your worth is decreased, you're still the same
Yeah.
CEO at this office,
Yeah.
right? And it's allowed to have a fever or the flu, but not anxiety
Yeah. Not depression.
and not depression.
We say snap out of it.
Snap out of it. So can you snap out of your flu then right away? Because you have mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
All human beings have it. We all have anxiety. We all have depression. We all have fear. That is just our emotions. They don't own us, but it's ours, right?
Yeah.
And anxiety serves a purpose. It's the body's alarm system. Fear serves a purpose. So I think we just need to understand the laws that governs the mind
Okay.
and the body.
We also spoke about our childhood traumas, and then it being caused by how we were raised. I know the people listening in, the young parents listening in. I'm a young parent, and I want to know what's the best way that I can raise my daughter to protect her from my traumas, or everything that I've experienced. What's the best way that I can raise her?
Wow, that's deep. So I would say, first of all, if you haven't had a child yet, the best thing you can do for your unborn child is to go through therapy
Okay.
and heal whatever that you've experienced and that shaped your perception. It doesn't need to be negative, or doesn't need to be. We all have something. So just get someone to make us understand how our history may have shaped, right? But if you're here now and you have a children, the best thing you can do for your children is to invest in your own well-being. Because your children is unconsciously modeling you, right?
Yeah.
So if your daughter and is witnessing how mom and she cares about herself, or what's relationship mom has, then that would be her reference point of how you as a woman should care for yourself, or what type of relationship you will go into. And the same applies for the father and the son.
Yeah.
So again, you're not selfish. This is your investment in yourself, first of all, and for your children and for the society as at large.
Yeah.
When you go for that therapy, or when you go for that break.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you've also talked about emotional intelligence. We struggle. We try to manage our emotions, but to no avail, to very little avail. I always feel like when I get mad, I get mad. When I get angry, I'm just on another level, and also get very emotional. How do we manage our emotions? What's the best way to go about it? This is anger, this is fear, anxiety, all these things. How do we manage this?
So let's first understand stress.
Please.
So prolonged stress can cause a lot of damage, both mental and physical, because stress contains powerful hormones that should make us survive something. But the problem is there's nothing to survive. So 90% of our fear is imaginary.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're thinking a worst case scenario about tomorrow, and tomorrow is not even here. Right? So we're suffering a future that hasn't even come to existence yet.
Yeah.
And that is our human condition. So let's understand stress. Try to do some self-evaluation. What are your biggest stressors? Is it financial? Is it relationship? What is it?
Financial.
Right. So write it down. Exactly. Write it down, right?
Yes.
It's legit.
Yeah.
You should worry about your finance, right?
Yes.
Because the way the society functions is you should have money to go about, right?
Yes, we should have money.
So your fear about your finance is legit.
Yes.
So own it and say, you know what, Miriam, it's yeah, I know where that fear comes from because I'm raising a child and I have this responsibility. Of course, I should worry about my financial situation. Now you own the problem,
Mm.
right? You write it down and do something about it.
Mm.
If you can solve it, solve it. If you
Yeah.
cannot solve it, there's no need to worry.
What about the imaginary fears? And because we usually just imagine that there's something, and we imagine the worst of everything, you know.
Yes.
What about those fears that we feel like, oh, this is gonna happen if I don't? It's not happened, but I'm already anticipating that it's going to happen. How do we stop that?
So the problem is, earlier I mentioned we need to understand the language of the mind. So this is the law. The human mind is there to protect us.
Yeah.
So that's why it emphasizes on the negative, because the negative has potential of harm, right? That's why we keep having all these negative thoughts again and again and again, because the mind is trying to find tools to deal with that in case something happens,
Oh.
right? But the thing is, that is how the mind functions. It's your mind, it's not the opposite, right? So we need to
Yes.
understand the mechanics of the mind.
Yeah.
So the mind giving you all these images of worst case scenario is just your mind doing its job.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's my mind doing my job. It's like giving me a warning.
A warning, it might be a real warning.
Yeah.
If there was an animal here, that's
Yeah.
a real warning, then you should run.
Yeah.
But the imaginary warnings, and it's understanding where they come from and
Okay.
why the mind is doing this. So
Yeah.
you cannot tell your mind to do something that is not created to do,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So this is where emotional intelligence comes in. Its intelligence is, utilizing this information you received according to and accordingly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So emotions, they're serving you information. So it could be real or it could be imaginary.
Okay.
Human mind or the human body cannot differentiate whatever you're experiencing, whether it's happening in real time or it's in your imaginary. The body cannot differentiate. It will give you the hormones you need. So if you have fearful thoughts of the future, you will get stress hormones. Because the body thinks you're being attacked, right?
Yeah.
So I think once we understand how this functions mechanically,
Yeah.
that it's easier to deal with it.
Okay.
So it's nothing wrong with your mind because you're thinking negative.
Yeah.
All of us do that.
Oh, good. I thought I was the problem.
Just a quick one. You've said, okay, after accepting, sometimes you just look at the reality and see, okay, fine, my issues could be the financial issues. Now I can solve this. That is fine. But you've also mentioned that if you cannot solve it, don't worry. I'm just like, how?
No, what I mean by if you cannot solve it, there's so many problems that we fear that we cannot solve in reality.
Yeah.
But we've been conditioned to fear that problem, right? So what I meant by that is whatever issue that you're facing, you're smart enough to engage whoever, different expertise.
Okay.
Who can help me with this?
Yeah.
So you're proactive. But if there's no solution to your problem, so what is the use for the fear?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? So now you have to look this problem from a different angle, right? Because you were only looking at the fearful side, but there may be different angles to this,
Oh,
right? So psychological reframing, put it in a different, yeah.
Okay. We are talking about emotion. We're talking about fear, trauma, and bits of it. We've just touched on emotional intelligence as well. I'm here with Abdi Basid Ali Mohammed. He's a psychotherapist, emotional intelligence, and behavioral analyst. When we get back, we're going to talk about triggers. The triggers to a trauma is what happens and how do we protect ourselves from falling back into old habits. It is SwahiliPot FM. My name is Miriam Angill. I'm here with Emmanuel Gona. I forgot your last name. I'm here with Emmanuel Gona. It's 11 minutes to 10 right now. Let's get back to the music.